Silence has weight. Before pain arrives, there is always a moment like this, a moment where nothing hurts yet, a moment where the body is unaware of what is about to happen. That moment never lasts long, because pain, when it comes, does not ask permission. It interrupts, it overwhelms, and it demands attention. Few questions ignite argument faster than this one. Getting kicked in the testicles or childbirth, which is more painful? The question sounds crude, almost disrespectful, but the reason it never goes away is simple. Pain is one of the few experiences every human understands, and no two humans experience it the same way. This is not a joke, and this is not a competition. It is an examination of how pain actually works. Imagine standing still. Nothing dramatic, nothing tense. Then, without warning, impact. The body reacts before the mind understands. Air leaves the lungs, muscle seize, pain explodes outward from a single point, but it doesn't stay there. It climbs upward, flooding the abdomen. The chest tightens, the throat constricts. For a moment, thought disappears. There is no logic, no framing, only sensation. This is why people describe testicular pain as overwhelming, not because it lasts for hours, but because it consumes everything at once. The nervous system fires in panic, signals race faster than conscious thought. The body is convinced something catastrophic has occurred. The testicles are densely packed with sensory nerves. They are exposed, poorly shielded. They were not designed for impact. When struck, the body does not treat the sensation as local pain. It treats it as a systemic emergency. The vagus nerve activates, heart rate shifts, blood pressure changes. This is why people feel nausea, why they feel dizzy, why knees buckle. It is not weakness, it is reflex. The pain is short-lived, but its intensity is absolute. For several seconds, nothing else exists. To understand why testicular pain feels so extreme, we must look at evolutionary design. The testicles hang externally, exposed, unprotected by bone or thick tissue. This placement is not accidental. Sperm production requires a temperature slightly lower than core body temperature, so the body sacrificed protection for function. The cremaster muscle can retract the testicles upward during danger, but this reflex is slow, too slow for sudden impact. The spermatic cord connects the testicles to the abdomen. It carries blood vessels, nerves, and the vas deferens. When trauma occurs, these structures transmit pain signals rapidly. The sensation travels upward through the lower abdomen. It triggers the same nerve pathways associated with internal organ distress. This is why testicular pain does not feel like a bruise. It feels like an internal crisis. The brain interprets the signal as a threat to reproductive capacity, and reproduction, in evolutionary terms, is survival. So the body floods the system with alarm.
Now consider a different experience. There is no sudden blow. There is a beginning, but it is gradual. The body tightens, then releases, then tightens again. Pain builds instead of striking. Contractions arrive in waves, each one stronger than the last. Minutes stretch, hours pass. The body is not shocked into silence, it is pushed to endure. This is childbirth, and its pain does not overwhelm in a single instant. It persists. Childbirth pain is not singular, it is layered. First, there is the contraction itself. The uterus is a powerful muscle. When it contracts, it squeezes with immense force. Each contraction restricts blood flow to the uterine muscles. Oxygen is temporarily cut off. This creates ischemic pain, pain caused by lack of oxygen. Athletes feel a version of this during intense exertion, but labor contractions are involuntary, and they repeat. Second, there is pressure. As the baby moves through the birth canal, it pushes against nerves in the pelvis and lower spine. This creates deep, radiating pain, pain that feels like it originates from within the bones themselves. Third, there is stretching. The cervix must dilate to 10 centimeters. Tissue that is normally closed must open. Ligaments stretch, muscles strain. And finally, there is tearing. In many births, the perineum, the tissue between the vagina and anus, tears, sometimes deliberately cut to prevent worse damage. Each of these sources of pain overlaps. They do not take turns, they compound. Childbirth pain is not passive. The body participates in it. Hormones are released to help manage stress. Endorphins rise to blunt sensation. The pain remains intense, but it becomes rhythmic. There is anticipation, preparation. The body knows something meaningful is happening. That does not make the pain smaller, it makes it structured. Where sudden impact pain is chaos, childbirth pain is pressure sustained over time. Between contractions there are breaks, moments where the pain recedes. This is crucial. It allows the mind to regroup, to prepare for the next wave. The brain adapts, it learns the rhythm. And in that rhythm there is a strange kind of control. Not control over the pain itself, but control over the response to it. Pain exists for one reason: survival. It is the body's alarm system. When tissue is damaged, nociceptors, specialized nerve endings, send signals to the brain. The brain interprets these signals as pain. But not all pain is created equal. Evolution shaped different types of pain for different threats. Acute pain is sharp, immediate, attention-grabbing. It says, "Stop what you are doing, something is wrong." Chronic pain is dull, persistent, draining. It says this problem has not been resolved. Childbirth pain is unique. It is intense, but it is not a warning, it is a process. The body is not damaged, it is working. This distinction matters. The brain does not interpret labor pain the same way it interprets injury. Hormones like oxytocin flood the system. They promote bonding. They prepare the body for what comes after. Endorphins rise to levels comparable to morphine. The pain is real, but the biological context is different. Testicular pain, by contrast, signals potential reproductive harm. The body treats it as an emergency, not because the injury is necessarily severe, but because the threat to reproduction is.
Pain is biological, but it is also cultural. Different societies interpret and respond to pain in vastly different ways. In some cultures, stoicism during pain is valued. Showing pain is seen as weakness. In others, vocalization is encouraged. Expressing pain is seen as honest. Childbirth practices vary widely. In traditional Mayan communities, women often give birth standing or squatting. Gravity assists. Movement is encouraged. In Western hospitals, women have historically been encouraged to lie flat. This position is easier for medical staff, but it makes labor harder. Pain medication is another cultural variable. In the United States, epidurals are common. In the Netherlands, many women choose unmedicated births. Neither approach is inherently correct, but each reflects different cultural attitudes toward pain, control, and intervention. Testicular pain, meanwhile, is often dismissed or mocked. Men are told to walk it off, to not complain. This dismissal is cultural. It reflects broader ideas about masculinity and stoicism, but it does not reflect the reality of the pain itself. Pain is not just a signal, it is a process. When tissue is damaged, nociceptors activate. They send electrical signals through peripheral nerves. These signals travel to the spinal cord. At the spinal cord, they can be amplified or dampened. Then they ascend to the brain. In the brain, pain is processed in multiple regions. The somatosensory cortex identifies the location and intensity. The anterior cingulate cortex adds emotional weight. The prefrontal cortex evaluates meaning and context. This is why pain is subjective. Two people with identical injuries can experience vastly different pain levels. The brain interprets based on context, memory, emotion, expectation. During childbirth, the brain releases natural opioids. These bind to receptors in the brain and spinal cord. They reduce the perception of pain, but they do not eliminate it. During sudden testicular trauma, the brain does not have time to mount this response. The pain arrives too fast. The nervous system is flooded with signals before the brain can modulate them. This is why the first few seconds are so overwhelming. For most of human history, pain was poorly understood. Ancient physicians believed pain was caused by imbalances in bodily humors: black bile, yellow bile, blood, phlegm. Treatments were often brutal: bloodletting, purging, burning. Childbirth was seen as inherently dangerous. Women often died. Babies often died. There was little understanding of infection, hemorrhage, or obstructed labor. Pain relief was limited to alcohol, opium, or nothing at all. In the 19th century, the discovery of anesthesia changed everything. Ether and chloroform allowed doctors to perform surgery without causing unbearable pain. But even then, some resisted. Religious leaders argued that pain, especially childbirth pain, was divinely ordained. To remove it was to defy God. Queen Victoria famously used chloroform during the birth of her 8th child. Her endorsement helped normalize pain relief in childbirth. Testicular trauma, by comparison, received little medical attention. It was not life-threatening. It was not a public health issue, so it was ignored.
Pain is individual, but patterns emerge. Men who have experienced severe testicular trauma describe it in similar ways. The words change, but the structure remains. Sudden, overwhelming, nauseating, a sense of helplessness. Women who have given birth describe labor pain with different language. Waves, pressure, intensity, a sense of endurance. Some describe a moment of transition, a point where the pain becomes so intense that it feels like surrender. Not giving up, but letting go of resistance. This is not unique to childbirth. It is a pattern seen in other extreme pain experiences: kidney stones, cluster headaches, severe burns. There is a threshold. Beyond it, the mind shifts. It stops fighting. It simply witnesses. This debate is never just about pain. It is about validation. Men feel their pain is dismissed. Women feel their pain is minimized. So the argument becomes personal. It becomes about being heard. Society has a long history of gendering pain. Women's pain is often labeled as emotional, hysterical, exaggerated. Men's pain is often dismissed as trivial, expected to be endured without complaint. Both responses are harmful. They prevent honest conversation, and they reinforce the idea that pain must be ranked to be respected. There is a persistent myth that women have higher pain tolerance than men. This is not entirely true. Studies show mixed results. Some suggest women tolerate certain types of pain better. Others suggest men do. But these studies are flawed. They do not account for cultural conditioning, for expectation, for context. Pain tolerance is not a fixed trait. It is influenced by experience, mindset, and circumstance. Athletes tolerate pain that would overwhelm others, not because they are inherently tougher, but because they have trained their minds to interpret pain differently. The same applies to childbirth. Women who have prepared mentally and physically often report less suffering. Not less pain, less suffering. Suffering is pain plus resistance. When resistance drops, suffering changes.
The brain does not store pain accurately. It stores a narrative, a story about pain. This is why trauma memories are fragmented. The mind recalls moments, images, sounds, but not the pain itself. Childbirth pain is remembered in stages: early labor, transition, pushing, relief. The intensity is acknowledged, but the sensation itself fades. This is called pain amnesia. It is biological. If women remembered the full intensity of childbirth, many would never have another child. Testicular trauma, by contrast, is remembered sharply because it is singular, a landmark. The brain files it under threats to avoid, and avoidance requires clear memory. To understand the extremes of human pain, we must look beyond testicles and childbirth. Kidney stones are often cited as one of the most painful experiences. Small mineral deposits travel through the ureter, a narrow tube. The pain is sudden, sharp, and unrelenting. Men who have experienced both kidney stones and testicular trauma often say the stones are worse. Women who have experienced both kidney stones and childbirth often say the stones are worse. This suggests that kidney stone pain may represent a different level of intensity.
Cluster headaches are another extreme. They're called suicide headaches because the pain is so severe that some sufferers have taken their own lives. The pain is described as a hot poker through the eye. It lasts 15 minutes to 3 hours. It can occur multiple times a day, for weeks. Compared to this, both testicular trauma and childbirth seem brief. But comparison does not diminish, it only contextualizes. Here is where most arguments fail. People speak as if pain were one thing, one scale, one ladder. But pain has dimensions. There is intensity, there is duration, there is shock, and there is endurance. Sudden impact pain reaches its peak instantly. Sustained pain rises, falls, and rises again. Comparing the two directly ignores how the brain interprets threat. The brain does not measure pain in abstract units. It asks one question: is this a threat to survival? Sudden testicle pain signals immediate danger. The response is aggressive. Childbirth pain signals prolonged strain. The response is adaptive. Different threats, different strategies. The brain reacts accordingly. Pain is not remembered accurately. Sudden pain becomes a landmark, a reference, the worst pain of my life. Sustained pain is remembered in fragments, stages, moments, transitions. Many people who experience childbirth later say they forget the exact intensity. That does not mean the pain was mild. It means memory prioritizes meaning over sensation. Pain with purpose fades differently than pain without one. Purpose is powerful. Childbirth pain leads to an outcome. There is meaning, resolution. The mind tolerates suffering differently when it understands why it exists. Testicle pain offers no purpose. It arrives, overwhelms, and leaves. That lack of meaning makes the pain feel hostile. Expectation reshapes experience. Sudden pain is unanticipated. The brain is caught off guard. Childbirth pain is expected, prepared for. This does not reduce intensity, but it changes interpretation. Athletes tolerate pain during competition that would feel unbearable elsewhere. Context rewires perception. This debate becomes heated because pain is personal. When someone dismisses your pain, it feels like dismissal of your experience. Men feel their suffering is mocked. Women feel their suffering is minimized. So defensiveness grows, not because people want to win, but because people want to be acknowledged. Science can measure nerve density, hormonal response, duration. It can map brain activity. What it cannot do is rank suffering. Pain scales are subjective. They guide treatment. They do not settle arguments. There is no universal hierarchy of pain, so the debate always returns here. Is pain defined by how high it peaks or by how long it lasts?
Is 1 second of overwhelming sensation worse than hours of sustained suffering? The answer depends on perspective, and pain does not negotiate. This argument survives because pain is one of the few universal experiences. We all suffer, but we suffer differently. Ranking pain gives the illusion of understanding, but pain resists ranking.
Perhaps the real insight is not in choosing a winner. Perhaps it is in recognizing that pain, all pain, demands respect. Testicular trauma is sudden, overwhelming, and disorienting. It deserves acknowledgement. Childbirth is prolonged, exhausting, and transformative. It deserves acknowledgement. Neither diminishes the other. The question was never which is worse. The question is why we need suffering to be ranked to be believed, why validation requires comparison, and what that says about how we listen to one another. Maybe the real question is not which hurts more. Maybe the real question is why we need one pain to outrank another, why suffering must be compared to be believed. Pain strips certainty. It exposes limits. Whether sudden or sustained, pain reminds us that the body has boundaries, and those boundaries differ for everyone. So we return to the question, not to answer it, but to sit with it. Is pain about intensity or endurance, about the moment or the memory? There is no verdict here, only reflection. Pause, let the silence sit. Should pain be measured by how intense it feels in a single moment, or by how long the body is forced to endure it? Your answer will not be universal, but it will be honest. Share your thoughts in the comments. Next, we'll be looking at the ocean. The ocean still hides more secrets than we can imagine. Vast, silent, and unexplored, entire worlds exist beneath the waves, untouched and unseen, and these are only the places we know about. So the next time you look at the sea, remember, what you see is just the surface.